Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So for today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my updated top 5 foundations. The last time I did this video, it was about 6 months ago, and there's definitely some new entries, definitely some changes. So I thought it would be helpful to update you, to let you know what foundations I'm still absolutely obsessed with towards the end of this year. I'm kind of anticipating this being it for this year. I don't know of any other foundations that are coming out in the remainder of 2021. Maybe there'll be a surprise pop-up, but as of this moment, this is kind of like my top 5, my ultimate holy grail foundations. We've kind of got all bases covered, all occasions covered in this top 5. So to be clear, there's no order to this. I'm just sharing my top 5. I'm not ranking these. These are kind of where it's at. I do have a couple that I would say were kind of 4th and 5th. But as far as the rest, like, this is just my favourite top 5. I can't go any further. I know people always want to say, but what's first? And do you like this one more than that one? And which one out of these two? But that's just a little bit too much. When you love as many foundations, you have as many foundations as me, it's very hard to pinpoint an exact favourite in an exact order of your favourites, because it just depends. It depends on my mood, it depends on the day, it depends on the occasion and what I'm going for, it depends on the season. So this is my top 5, and that's as good as it's going to get. Before we get started, I should also give you some information about my preferences and my skin, just so that you know what I'm looking for and why, therefore, these are my favourites. So I am 37, always have to try and think about my age now. 37, definitely have some signs of aging, fine lines, some texture, things like that. I have pretty normal skin, not super oily, no dryness. I do have a bit of redness, no sensitivities, and my preference is what I look for in a foundation generally is like a medium coverage. I like very natural looking foundations. I like glowy, luminous finishes without too much shininess or dewiness. And I need a decently wearing foundation. You know, I am a working mum. A lot of what I do is running around after children, chores, busy days, that kind of thing. So I do need a foundation to hold up, but at the same time, I'm not looking for like a 24-hour lasting foundation that's going to hold up under a mask and under everything else for that entire time. So it's kind of moderate wear is what I need and require. I also don't set my foundations 99% of the time. I don't feel I need to. I don't have an oilier skin type. I don't have an issue with foundations wearing well on me. If they're a decent foundation, they wear as long as I need them to. So most of the time, the finish of these foundations is what I end up with. I don't then apply powder or anything like that. So that's kind of the background for you on my skin type and on my preferences. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first foundation we're going to talk about is one that was in my top 5 the last time I did this video 6 months ago, and this is the Shiseido Synchro Skin Radiant Lifting Foundation. Not the self-refreshing, the radiant lifting version of this foundation. This is still a favourite. I think it's my most affordable. Yes, it is my most affordable foundation of the bunch that I'm going to talk about today. It is just a very beautiful, fresh looking foundation, very natural with some luminosity. It wears beautifully. It's very nice and flattering on lines, texture, things like that. Very, very beautiful, very, very easygoing. A small amount goes a long way. It's a very like rich and creamy foundation on the skin. It does have SPF 30. That may be a negative or a positive depending on you and your preferences, but yeah, a beautiful, very natural, glowy foundation, just what I kind of look for, my preferences. So next up, we do have a new entry to this top 5, and this is the Cle De Peau, what's it called? Radiant Cream Foundation. I think this was like a reformulation, extended shade range kind of situation, upgraded packaging or different packaging slightly to the original. I believe this was released before, but it's been improved this year. It was re-released. So this is a very, I wouldn't say thick, but it is a cream foundation as opposed to a liquid. So it is thicker than some of these. You need a very tiny small amount, but it does come in a smaller fill. There's only 21 ml in here, which is like the smallest foundation I ever remember using or even seeing. That is a really small, stingy amount, so bear that in mind because it is very expensive. A little goes a long way, and this the finish of this is glorious. It's so pretty and beautiful, and it's just the perfect amount of luminosity for me. A small amount of this will get you a super full coverage. You can build it up and get a complete mask face if that's your jam. It is one that throughout the day it will get slightly more luminous, so it's not one that I would typically wear if I need, like if I'm going for a long brutal day out with the children at a soft play or something, or like an adventure park. This wouldn't be the one that I would reach for, but for things like filming, for, you know, a regular daytime, or, you know, a day date, something like this is absolutely gorgeous. Just a very beautiful luminous finish, lovely coverage, very quick and easy to use, really covers everything super quick with a tiny amount. So yeah, very, very pretty, very, very beautiful, but not the best pick if you want like a super long wearing, impenetrable layer. Next up, this one will come as no surprise to anybody. It's been in this list, it continues to be in this list, and it's the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate foundation, probably my holy grail foundation, possibly my favorite out of all of these 5. It's just ticks every box that I have on my list, maybe other than one thing. It's luminous without being dewy or wet or shiny. It's a medium coverage. It's so natural. It's smooth. It doesn't soak into lines and wrinkles. It's very flattering on texture. It wears gorgeously without setting, and it doesn't get shinier and shinier throughout the day. It's like a very nice thin consistency. It's like when you pump this out, it's actually quite thin and watery looking, but it still gives you a very gorgeous coverage, and it's very effective with a small layer, a small amount of foundation at actually evening all of my skin tone, getting rid of redness, discoloration, but still seeing skin showing through. It's definitely like a classic medium. It's not a medium to full, it's just a medium, but it does beautifully at evening everything out with a thin layer and with a really natural amount of coverage, and it's just perfection. There's something very beautiful and very special about the finish of this one, and why it's my favorite over some of the others in this sort of similar foundation category is that it stays there. It does not fade, it doesn't lose its glow throughout the day, it doesn't get shinier and shinier. It's like it goes on perfectly and it stays in that perfect place between dewy and matte that I love. Some of these foundations, it's like when it goes on, it's a bit too matte for me, but it gets glowier throughout the day. Some of them start off beautifully glowy, but then get a bit too shiny if they're not set throughout the day. This one stays perfect, starts perfect, finishes perfect, and there's perfect in between all day long. I like it. And this gorgeous packaging doesn't hurt. Next up, another foundation that was in my list and is super similar in lots of ways to the one that I just talked about, and this is the Cle De Peau Radiant Fluid Foundation Natural. I had a few people think that the one that I love was the matte version. You know me better than that. It's the natural version that I love that's my favorite. This is, again, a beautiful, stunning bottle. You actually get 35 mils in here, so a little extra for your money. So it's like Cle De Peau, they giveth and they taketh away. I mean, make your minds up, guys. Are you giving us more or giving us less? We don't know. Very, very similar to the Tom Ford. Very hard to tell the difference between these two. The biggest difference is in consistency or texture of the foundation. This one is thicker, more sort of creamy than the Tom Ford, which is a very thin, watery texture. So it's a little different to apply, but the end result is very similar. It's that medium coverage. This one may have like a slight hair bit more coverage to it than the Tom Ford, but the finish is very, very similar. It's that gorgeous natural luminosity that I look for. It's got that medium, but the heavier, fuller side of medium coverage. It wears incredibly. I don't need to set it. It's just tick, tick, tick. Again, all of these that I've spoken about so far have SPF in it. So the last one I'm going to talk about does not, because, and this is the reason why this last one is going to be in this top 5. But again, a stunning, beautiful, very special finish. It's just hits the nail on the head for exactly what I look for in a foundation. These two are just twins, but from different eggs. Is that a thing? And if you're looking for these on more of a budget, the Shiseido is the closest that I've found. This is like half the price at least of these two. I don't like this one as much. The finish just isn't quite as pretty and as beautiful. It doesn't sit on the skin quite as perfectly as these two, but if you just want to save a bit of money and be close, then this is your guy. And last but not least, by any means, the biggest newcomer of this whole bunch is the Lisa Eldridge. This is the foundation that I have on today, and this is the foundation that I have been loving recently. And as I said before, the reason this one is like smashed it out of the park into this top 5 is because it gives me something these others do not, and that's one, no SPF. Okay, no SPF and slightly less glow. It's not a glowy, dewy, luminous foundation really. It's a satin finish, I would say. Lisa described it as being perfectly in the middle of the sort of dewy to matte scale, and that's exactly where it sits. I'd say it's a natural satin finish. Very, very beautiful on the skin, and because it has no SPF in it, perfect for evenings, perfect for very long days, perfect for any kind of event, date, drinks with the girls, when you don't want flashback, you don't want white cast. It's going to photograph beautifully without playing you, whereas all 4 of these that have quite a lot of SPF in there will potentially let you down, potentially play you, potentially give you like the ghost face effect, which we don't love. But I reach for this one a lot. It's a super good wearing foundation. Again, it's kind of sits in that bracket where it starts off just looking flawless and beautiful and satin, and it stays there throughout the day. It doesn't get shiny and shiny and shinier throughout the day. It wears gorgeously. It dries down beautifully. It's self-setting, which I totally agree with that claim. I feel like actually all of the claims of this foundation are spot on. I don't feel like Lisa made any outlandish, insane claims. The claims of this foundation are straightforward and it lives up to every single one of them. It's natural, it's smoothing, it gives that very fresh, smooth, flattering appearance over lines and wrinkles and texture. It's self-setting, it's fragrance-free, SPF-free, talc-free. It's like perfect for sensitive skin. If any of those things irritate your skin, this is your guy. It's a medium sort of buildable, I would say, coverage. You could definitely use this very naturally and get a light coverage, but I can easily build this up to full without using a ton of it. A couple of pumps go a very long way with this foundation. It applies seamlessly. It's very, very natural and pretty and just so flattering on the skin. A lot of you guys were saying in my review when I've worn this is the best foundation on you that I've ever seen. And the reason being is just because on camera, it's not as glowy and dewy or as luminous as some of these others, which does look better on camera, especially if you have lights, because with glowy luminous foundations with lights shining on your face and the camera picking up on things like texture and things like the light, they can look too much, or it can emphasize texture, or it can just not look as flawless as a less luminous foundation does. I think this will be stunning in photos. A stunning, perfect wedding foundation, this one. But this has definitely become like my go-to for days when I want to look less luminous, which is a rare occasion. But sometimes I do, or sometimes I want to add luminosity with a lot of highlighter, glowy blush, that kind of thing. If I want to tone down the glow, this is the one I go for. If I want a more natural day, this is the one I go for. If it's an evening, this has replaced my Tom Ford Soft Matte as my evening go-to foundation. So there you have it. That is my current top 5 foundations for 2021. A couple of newcomers, a couple of replacements. We've said goodbye to the Tom Ford Soft Matte that just got bumped out by this one as like my favorite kind of less luminous evening appropriate foundation. And we've also said goodbye to the Estee Lauder Futurist, which I still love, don't get me wrong, still love. Those two are probably 6th and 7th on the list. They just got slightly pipped out, slightly bumped down the ladder a little. So please let me know what your favorite foundations are this year, if you've changed, if you've got a ride or die that's just been in your makeup bag for years and nothing has ever beaten it. Please let us know in the comments section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.